to the republic. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. This is our business meeting for the month of September. Our first full month of school. So we have 4 board members here today. Jamie is not with us this evening, and we knew that he wasn't be able to make it, so we'll miss him, but he's excused from the meeting. And we're delighted to have 2 of our 2 new student board representatives with us tonight. Moment, but welcome. Here. So let's get started. We got a lot on the agenda, so let's get started with a district highlight, and I guess that will comes right back to the student board rep. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Peters. Thanks, Jeff.
Let me do this. Thank you for coming this evening. Tonight we have the honor of introducing the 2 junior students from Selah High School who are our new board reps for the year. Our 2 senior board reps for the year, Indy Helms and Elise Ozanich, are not here this evening, so we're being anchored by the 2 new members of the board. The student board student representatives for the board are non-voting members, but advisory members of the board. And oftentimes, you'll probably see it tonight, give us feedback on what the student perspective of our decisions is. And we find that invaluable. It's a popular saying, I guess you would say, in education, that students are the experts at being students. And since that's why we're here, we're very glad to have you joining us and helping us in our decision making. I want to introduce Lauren Rice, who's to my left here. Lauren is a member of the Selah FFA, is an accomplished trap shooter. Am I saying that right? Does that sound right? And also a cheerleader for all year or for just fall? Sure, yeah, do it.
We do fall for football, and then we also cheer during basketball season. So into the
You're doing both of those. Okay, great. So we're excited to have Lauren's perspective on the board. And to her left is Addison or Addie Flowers. Addie is on the Selah swim team, is a running start student, but is also a mentor for the freshman advisory classes at Selah High School. Is that correct? And Addie, I remember from your application that you didn't start at Selah. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I didn't come to Selah until 6th grade.
Until 6th grade. And one of the things Addie felt when she came to Selah was a real sense of welcome, and she wants to try and to extend that welcome that she felt as a new student, and that perspective she brought from coming from outside the district, we thought was a valuable one as well. So we're excited to have both of you here. It feels weird that they're all the way down there, right? It's like they're will normally be filled in right here, but congratulations. The process, for those of you who are in the audience and online, the process is kind of an intimidating one. There's an application, they turn in a resume. Then a couple of weeks ago, they came and sat at a sad, lonely table there in front of all of us while we asked them a series of questions. There were a total of 5 juniors that applied for the position. The 3 that weren't chosen, we're finding other ways to get involved in student voice at the high school in particular. But our 2 board reps will be high school voices, as well as choosing a school to focus on this year, whether it's Lintz or SIS or the middle school, John Campbell, to kind of be the liaison between that school and those students and the board. So we're looking forward to hearing how they see things, but also how those students at those other schools see those things through our board reps. So congratulations and welcome.
Very nice. Thank you, Dan. And do we have another highlight?
Yes.
We do.
We do. I would like to ask Nyla Webster to stand up, please.
Oh.
No problem. We didn't even hear it. School board members, this is Nyla Webster. She is Wilbur Rep's sister. And if you'll remember, Wilbur put us in his will, and Selah School District, I shouldn't say us personally, Selah School District. His desire is to see some sort of a tech center be built in Selah for our high school students and definitely will benefit many, many thousands of students over the years. And he donated to the school district $3,650,000 over the last 3 years, kind of in pieces. And we're very excited. We have it reserved within our capital projects fund. Our interest is to discuss the future of Wilbur Rep Tech Center in our facilities planning process, which Mr. McKay, our superintendent, has just started. So we will be talking about our long-range facilities plan, and hopefully, probably by the spring, we'll be done with this process with the facilities committee, and we'll be able to get back to you and let you know kind of what our target is on when we'd like to build it. There's no guarantees on actual timing, but it gives us an opportunity to prioritize it within the list of things that the committee finds needed in the district. So the school board had requested to see you and meet you in person so that they could thank you. So I want to just turn it over to them.
For probably, 2 years before he died. And that's all he talked about was, first of all, he was going to donate to scholarships for college. And then as time went on, he just felt the need was more and more towards a tech facility for those that, and I think it was because, quite frankly, he graduated from college, but I didn't. And I don't think I qualified, if you want to know the truth, but he was a wonderful brother, and I look forward to seeing the progress and any help I can be in the future. I appreciate it. Okay.
And he taught for
25 years.
25 years. So he was in the education profession, and he definitely had a drive for
Yeah.
basically the pathways, really. And looking forward with I don't know, Nyla, if you know that our pathways here in Selah for vocational avenues for kids have just grown.
Oh, well, yeah. in fact, I was
Exponentially.
telling the girls, you know, that as I hear on the news, the more and more importance of technical training than as opposed to college is gaining so much more strength. And I just said, I'm just sure he can hear it up there. And I thank you very much for me coming out, and call me if I can help in any way. Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Any other words from the school board?
I would,
Okay. No, not at all. You do not have to stay the whole time.
oh, gee,
And I want dog.
well, there you go. Oh, my. Oh, shoot. Thank you very much for coming to meet us. We really appreciate everything you're doing. No kidding. No kidding. Well, you know, we hung our hat on this term college and career ready for many, many years. And now we've shifted it to future ready. And that seems to me to fall right in line with what she's referenced here. You know, future ready looks different for every single student. And whether it's college or it's a vocational or whatever that pathway or desire is, it's our obligation to provide that opportunity to explore and to experience as much as they can while they're here. And so this will definitely help us fulfill that need. We're so blessed and lucky. Thank you. Boy, that was a treat. Okay, moving on. We are moving to suggestions and comments from the audience, which is a public comment period we have every business meeting. And so I do believe we have a couple in the audience tonight that would like to address the board. And so the rule is that please make it respectful. Please identify yourself. We are here to listen. Pardon us if we can't or don't interact a lot because it's just not something we can do in this setting. But trust us when we say that we will be listening intently and taking notes and taking your comments to heart. And so I would, and then I guess the last part of the rules is that we ask that you keep it under 3 minutes. And I hope that that will fit. Okay. So with that, I will open the floor to anybody that would like to address the board. Right, right. Okay, so it's not, all right, so we don't, sorry, I thought we had. Oh, okay, there you are. All right, very nice. Yeah. This is Mrs. Kincaid, if I got that right. Is that correct? Okay.
Ones that come out.
There's a little green collar.
I don't know, after hearing the last story, I about cried, so, and after I've been here and listened to everybody, I just want you to know that I really feel like we can achieve what my letter is about. I come to you with the utmost respect for the Selah School District. I am grateful for the teachers and staff, but we as a community and district need to come together and make things better for our schools. Unfortunately, we are held down by certain laws to have prevented us from moving forward. Coronavirus took a lot from us. It took a lot from our children. They missed a lot of school. They had to stay home and wonder what was going to happen next. Some of their parents lost their jobs, their homes. This causes a lot of anxiety, sadness, and the worst is anger. Our kids are angry. Our teachers are drowning. They have to deal with these behaviors, teach classes. We are expecting our teachers to discipline, teach, be a counselor, be referees, and then we are trying to give them evaluations based on these things, plus the scores on all the state testing. I think that we need to take a step back and take a breath. We cannot keep looking over the bad things and putting a positive spin on bad situations. These teachers should be able to rely on their supervisors and have their backs. They need to know that they are being heard. They need to feel safe to voice their concerns without retaliation. If they do not feel safe, they should be able to talk to the superintendent. There is enough corruption in our country, and the only way to stop and show our children what is right from wrong is to do what is right. Our community is ready for the task. All you have to do is ask. I've talked to teachers, several of them, more than several, and they can't go to their superiors because of some treatment that they have been given, and they're afraid to speak up because they're afraid of retaliation. And this shouldn't be something that should be going on in our schools. Some of them are wanting to speak up anonymously, and I am trying to be their voice. I'm trying to be the kids' voice. I'm trying to be the teacher's voice. And I'm trying to hurry. Something must more be done in our classrooms with regards to disruptive students. We have students yelling and cursing at teachers. Not only is this an obvious disruption with the class, but within the classroom, you have kids there who are coming to school to escape this exact behavior at home. Within these classrooms, you have kids with bad homes, lives, special needs children, or kids with sensory issues. Disruptive students are often sent to the principal's office, then released back to class with little or no punishment or change in behavior. The actions of a few are having real life consequences on the rest of our class that just want to learn. This same behavior is happening in the hallways as well. Personally, I have a son with sensory issues, harassed by having his noise canceling headphones removed and screamed in his ears. This is a boy who just wants to go to school and learn. This incident happened twice. He had a panic attack on his second. This is not our first incident. We've had about 5 incidences since the school year has started, with 4 of my children, 3 out of the 4 of my children. And I'm not angry. I'm just trying to be here to make things better. Tell me what we can do as a community, as parents or whatever, to jump in and say, okay, hey, we've got this. We're going to help you. And I want to do that for our teachers. I want our teachers to know that there are parents out there who want to support them. We want our kids to do what they're supposed to do in the classroom. We don't want them to be sitting there getting A's or B's for nothing that they've not tried to do. There's parents out there who want help for this. And this letter goes on, but I'm sure you can hear my heart. And I just want to be there for our kids, our students, our special needs students, our kids that are, are accelerating amazingly well, you know, but I'm just one small voice, so help me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kincaid. It was felt from your heart. We could feel that one. So that sincerity means a lot to us. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. Okay, we have one other letter here that we've been asked to read at the board meeting, and we said that we would. And so this is from Jennifer Hines. And so her letter says, a wise man once said, you only get one chance to make that first impression. As we begin our new school year, some of our district schools took that to heart, where others missed the mark by a mile. Selah Middle School put on a smooth orientation. Administration and staff were out and about greeting students and families. Adults working with our students knew them by name, inquired about their summer, and were available to help. They took time to know our kids, to build relationships, and to actually show them they care. The communication about orientation was very clear. To make the orientation process simple, postcards with picture information was sent home, as well as countless emails and parent square messages. There were links to pay for ASB cards and yearbooks, and the process ran like clockwork. Start times for orientation were staggered over several hours to allow students to move through the line quickly and efficiently, and to give staff the opportunity to pay attention to the needs of students and families. Selah Middle School put their best foot forward. Mr. Galloway and his team made families feel valued, included, and cared for. In contrast, Selah Intermediate School was quite the opposite. It was a circus, to say the least. There were a few emails about meet the teacher night and a call from the teacher herself, but no mention of road construction or advice as to where to park, since all 800-ish students and families were packed into a 1-hour time slot. Chaos might be a better way to describe this event. There was not one staff member outside helping parents navigate the parking lot. Parents were parking in non-parking spots. The neighboring church was at capacity, as well as many of the side streets on both sides of Fremont. This was a safety concern, as parents and students were darting between moving cars to get to the overcrowded buildings and hallways. For what? To meet the teacher. It was nice to put a face to the name, but really unnecessary, as students' supplies are provided, so there was nothing actually to drop off. The new forms that needed to be filled out could have easily been emailed home or sent via email. Inside the main doors, there was a lovely parapro. She was the only one visible in the main entrance, handing out calendars and maps, but parents were really left to wander the halls alone. Counselors who were overwhelmed with questions in the hallway had to radio the administrators who were otherwise absent. You only get one chance to make a first impression. This chaotic first impression left me with an uneasy confidence that Selah Intermediate School leadership has things under control. My mom used to tell me that our actions speak louder than words. As a school district, we give lip service to parents and say that we care about community involvement, but Selah Intermediate School's actions speak volumes. In an emergency situation, which school would be prepared? I have a feeling that our middle school has procedures and protocols in place as to how to keep our kids safe in an emergency, but I'm left to wonder if a crisis persists, will be met with a bunch of chickens running about with their heads cut off. I have heard that during the first several days of the school at JCP, students waste learning time set aside for meet the teacher conferences. However, some teachers are conducting those meetings only during contracted hours, so working parents and families do not have opportunity to participate. Even the Zoom option is only offered during contracted hours. Is there a reason that we're acting like we're still living in a COVID era rather than just starting? Oops, excuse me. That being said, we personally have been incredibly blessed with the teachers that our children have had. However, the problem is systematic. See, the school district test scores are terrible at all levels, and they have dropped further since our new superintendent took over. We've had students to speak out at this very school board and state that they don't feel prepared for the future. What are we doing? What we are doing isn't working. Maybe it's time to try something different. So that's the letter from Jennifer Hines. Thank you, Mrs. Hines, for your comments. We'll enter both of the letters into the record in tonight's meeting, and we've got the hard copy. All of us have copies to refer back to. Okay, we'll move on now to item number 4, which is meeting minutes. The approval of our regular meeting minutes from August 24th. We've had a chance to read those as a board, and so we need to approve these meeting minutes. For the audience, the meeting minutes are our record of business that is conducted at our school board meetings, and the meetings capture all of that. Here every meeting, and she does a fabulous job. So we have meeting minutes in front of us, and I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve our meeting minutes as presented. Any discussion or questions by anybody? Okay, all those in favor indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, meeting minutes are approved, and we'll move on to number 5, our consent agenda. In the consent agenda, there's several items listed here, and this is typical, say that for the student reps that are in the room. This is typical to have several items. These are common monthly topics that are in a consent agenda. This is one group of topics that are all discussed and talked about in one segment, if you will, of the meeting. And so tonight's consent agenda includes a human resources action sheet, which is a monthly HR report on people that have been reassigned or have resigned or have been hired and that kind of stuff. So is there any highlights that,
No, just wanted to mention, we still have a few paraeducator positions that have opened up as through the start of the school year, and a couple custodial ones as well. So that's why you're seeing some hirings in those areas. Also on the coaching side of things, we've had some turnover as well. So otherwise, it's pretty typical for this time of year.
okay.
Chris, I had a quick question. There was a recent job posting for a security personnel at the middle school. Is that correct? Is that a new position?
Actually, we replaced our retiring security monitor. We did add within their staffing allocation, they added a second security monitor. The gentleman that we hired is delayed on starting and not sure he's going to start at all, so we had to reopen it.
Okay, I'm just glad we're addressing some of those concerns and issues.
Yes. Yep. And no highlights with the payroll goods and services this evening.
Good. We do have two sections here on policies. Again, for our new student reps in the room and the audience, all policies that the school district adopts, it's a two-step process. There's a first reading, which is an introduction to the policy and any changes that are in the policy, and we have the opportunity to read that and learn about them and hear input from administration. And then the second reading would be the following month, after we've maybe had a chance to study it or learn more about it. And then at the second meeting or the second reading is when we adopt the policy. And so the first readings are listed here. There's several here, and we've had a chance to read those. And I guess I'll just ask you, Kevin, do you have anything you want to point out there? I know we had a chance to read through them.
As I've told you before, policies are usually the actions where they start with either our state government or within the federal government, and eventually through the process of determining how they're going to become enacted within school districts, it does take some time. And we've had a lot, and I've told you about that, and you're still seeing the evidence of that as every meeting for the last few meetings, we've had at least 5 of these policies come to you. Of all the ones that you're taking a look at tonight, before we get to the second reading, I would encourage you to go through policy and procedure 3207. And that one is in regards to the prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying of students. And so that is there for your review. I have lots of information for you if you would like additional information that's not listed in the policy. I would be happy to share all that with you, share the stuff that you receive from WASDA, the school board organization for our state. But it's a lot. It's a large policy and procedure in the first place. And some of the changes or revisions to it are definitely worthy of your consideration.
So 3207 is one you're drawing our attention to in
Correct.
particular. All right, good. So we'll have an opportunity then between now and the next meeting when we formally adopt the policy to study that and reach out to you if we have additional questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the
And for any reason, if you do get there, remember, you always have the ability to table or delay the adoption of that policy if there's needed to be more time for study.
Maybe I'll ask, in your observation of that policy in particular, is there anything that sticks out in that policy to you that would be detrimental or a home run for the Selah School District that
Well, this policy in particular is one that, through the course of probably numerous years has had lots of revisions. And it has lots of revisions because, it really has a tremendous impact on students. And, each year, there is new information to learn about bullying, harassment, intimidation, and the effect that it has on students, and then the responsibilities of the school district. So this is one that, you've seen before. You've seen it been revised multiple times, and it's there to be revised again based on, in this case, House Bill 1207. WASDA has identified this as being an essential policy in their opinion. It does do some updating in language and being in compliance and how your compliance officer is supposed to handle situations. It has some redefining of, like, for example, the word aggressor now has a different definition. So I do draw your attention to this one. It is a policy that we refer to a lot, and as well as a procedure. This is a policy and procedure that we get asked to provide a lot. It is located on the district's website in a place that's located fairly easy to find. It is a policy and procedure that we do follow with regards to investigations and how it's done at each of the schools when there's a claim of harassment, intimidation, or bullying. And that's why I draw your attention to it. It is probably one of the more often used policies that provides guidance to how we deal with situations when harassment, intimidation, or bullying come about, or accusations thereof.
And this looks like it narrows the definition from students, employees, parents, et cetera, to specifically to students. Is there a separate one that covers
Yes.
employees? Okay.
Yes, correct.
Other questions by other board members or student reps about this one is titled harassment and bullying. While the official title is harassment, intimidation, or bullying of students.
Yep.
Prohibition of harassment, intimidation, or bullying of students. And so, a little bit of a sidebar, but again, trying to educate those that are listening, there's two steps to every policy. One is the rules behind the policy. I mean, what are the guidelines that we're going to follow? Are outlined in the policy itself. And then the second half of it, a sister document that goes with it, is the procedure. So part of it says what we're supposed to do with the policy. The second one is how are we going to execute that? And so the procedural part, the board doesn't get involved with that. That's our superintendent and his team's job. Our job is to adopt the policy, which provides direction to the superintendent to execute on the procedure. Did I say that correctly?
You did, yeah.
So we're talking about policies only, and the procedural part of it is not in the dialogue here, but that is up to, that's the second part of it. But harassment and bullying is certainly a topic that everywhere, and it has been in schools forever, and it's an important topic that we pay particular attention to. And we're grateful to have the input from the state agency that has got the lens on all of our school districts across the state that can provide input and provide us some suggested language. Any questions by anybody on any of these? I'm talking about all five. There's one on substance abuse, our high cap program, the harassment, student records, and then public information. Or 5 topics. Okay. These don't need action. It's just it's part of the consent agenda. Okay. All right, and then the second part of this is our second readings, and this does take action because these are the second time around for us. So 2230 is our transition to kindergarten program. 6220 is a bid or proposal requirements. Policy 3432 is on emergencies in the district. 6600 is regarding transportation. Policy number 1400 is meeting conduct, order of business, and quorum. And policy 1610 is conflicts of interest. We had discussion on these a month ago and had the opportunity to study them further. So I personally don't have any additional questions on any of these, so let's just take one at a time. Policy 1400 on meeting. Wait, I started doing an order. Consent. All right, does anybody have any questions? I hate to just throw it out as a blanket like that, but I think we've had a chance to read them. Does anybody have any questions? Again, for the audience, much of the changes in these policies, these aren't new policies to the district. They're revised policies. Much of the language changes. A lot of times it's very minor, a strikeout here and a new word or something like that. Very rarely are these policies, have a lot of major revisions, although, we're being asked to look at the previous policy on harassment and bullying a little bit further, so we will do that. But we'll leave all of those second readings in as a group. If there's no other discussion. And then the last thing in the consent agenda is our out-of-state travel. And I'll just say that one of the things that we've talked about earlier in the summer was that in order to try and realign some of our budget expenditures and revenues and so forth next year, that one of the things that district leadership has chosen to do is to restrict some travel. And yet we have a couple here, and for good, valid reasons. And so it might be worthy to have you, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind, just fill us in a little on the second one, which is the one that we're sending a lot of people to a courageous conversation conference. And so this is a little bit against the grain on what we talked about. However, we know that this was started ahead of time prior to our discussion over the summer. So it's an opportunity to maybe just give us some justification on that one.
Yeah, this is from what Alicia, I have some notes here, and I only say that because the work with regards to this event really started 3 years ago when the district decided to take on its Cecil and equity work. What you have in front of you is a trip request to attend the Courageous Conversations Summit in Austin, Texas on November 3rd through 8th. And it does take high school teaching staff there to go through this training. This is the culminating event of the Cecil work. And so as we started to, over the years, engage our employees within the Cecil work, this really is the end of it. It was in the plan. It was per se in the budget. There is a funding source, i.e. Title I in this case, that is part of this. And it's part of the Viking promise and flagship that we have for equity within our schools. And so this is something that I know is important, not only to the people who are going to be participating and traveling there, but also the district as a whole, and most importantly, our students. And so I realize that maybe in a different context, or if it wasn't tied to a 3-year commitment by the district, and this wasn't the culminating one, we may have a different opinion, and it may not have been coming to you because of the cost related to it. But for all those reasons, I recommend it to you that you would approve it, because I do think it finishes some work that we have started and invested deeply in. And it really is the connection with our employees at the high school, staff members at the high school, to be able to carry on the work without having to go to these in the future. It's a conference, but it's more so of a training as well. They're going to go and be trained. And so they're going to have a skill set will allow us to continue the work that we've started in Cecil for years to come.
So what I'm taking away here then is that this is like the next session in a series of Cecil training related sessions that we've been attending in order to really maximize and do a good job with our Cecil commitment. And I think you mentioned to me that this particular one was kind of the next phase of Cecil training, where we can begin to have crucial conversations with students and others in the community that, you know, in the Cecil training at this point has kind of been internal, if you will, and this helps us branch out into a broader audience.
That's fair to say, and it's really the student piece is really the key here. We realize that the students have a different perception, mindset, and different experiences that many of the adults have. And this allows the training to take place where the adults can work directly with the students to make sure that we, again, are hearing their voice, hearing their ideas, and allowing them the skills to work with each other, the adults and each other, the other students within the schools, with regards to equity, and in this case, understanding the impact of race within them.
I don't want to put words in our student rep's mouth, but if I was sitting at the end of the table and hearing this for the first time, I would, and I don't want to put you on the spot either, but I would want to know what Cecil is. What does that stand for? Or what does it, what's the definition?
Selah, equity-centered instructional leadership.
Equity-based.
It's equity. Mhm.
Okay, so here we go. We've got a significant group from Selah School District going to this conference. That is a training, not just a conference, so not a sit and get. It's a hands-on, session by session training. And it's in November, so this would be the time to ask any additional questions about it. We'll vote to approve or not. Okay. All right. Yep, I was just gonna say, we're at the end of our consent agenda, so got all the items from HR through this last discussion in this consent agenda, so we need a motion to approve the entire consent agenda. By somebody?
I'll move it, we approve it.
Any further discussion or questions? All right, we'll vote. All those in favor indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you for the explanation, Kevin. That helps a lot. I look forward to what you bring back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll move on to the administration area. We have a highly capable.
Yeah, and Alicia apologizes. It is her son's senior night for her son's high school cross-country team, and she felt that was an important mom activity, and I agree with her as a parent, and those will be memories that will last a long time, and I know it'll be important for her son to have her in attendance. So what I'm sharing with you would be normally what she would share with you. It is the responsibility that every year that the board approves a highly capable plan for the school district. And I'll just share some of the notes that she has shared with me about the things that are different from previous year plans. The first one is the amount of students that are in the highly capable program, and that is somewhere in approximately 235 students are served in that program. And remember, our school district has 6,600, 6,700 students. I can't remember the exact number. 36, sorry about that. So it's a very small percentage, but an important percentage as well of 235 students involved. Some updates from previous year. Last year, we added a second grade screener to our process, and this would be screening them to determine if they are meeting the definition of highly qualified. All students in grade 2 were screened for high cap and did not need a referral. So everybody got screened. This year, we'll be adding 6th grade as well. So students in 6th grade will have the opportunity, without having to go to be referred, will be screened. Now that again, when we talk about equity, there's another example of equity, that all students do not have to be, don't have to go through an application process, don't have to be, get a recommendation to go through that. So all students in both those grade levels will go through that screener. Therefore, as Alicia said, there will be 2 opportunities that all students will have to be considered for placement, and all other years will be based on referrals. So any year outside of those 2 students would have the opportunity to be in the highly capable program, but through the referral process. The referral process allows for involvement in the highly capable program. It can be through a family member, a staff member, a community member, or the student themselves can actually go through that process. So you do have the highly capable plan within the documents there. And I'm going to be honest, Alicia would do a much better job of presenting this than I do. But it is a responsibility of the school district each year to provide their approval to it.
I know one of the things that has come up in the past, I mentioned this to you the other day, is that once a student enters into the high cap program, let's say as a second grader, that they're considered in the high cap program throughout their entire school journey here at Selah. And I don't know, maybe a student in the second grade that is deemed worthy of that should be, and it would make sense for them to continue, but I wonder if there's any protocol or best practices out there for reassessing or reevaluating or just reconfirming, maybe it's the better, more positive way to say it, somewhere along the way, if a student is in second grade, could there be a reconfirmation of that in fifth grade or, eighth grade or something?
Yeah, I would say that I agree with you, Jeff, but that is not the way that the program is designed. And that's not what was behind it from our state and probably from the national level, is that once a student is deemed to be and determined to be through an assessment to being being highly capable, that stays with them. Now, that's not to say that they cannot be removed. Parental choice has the ability to remove their child at any time that they don't believe that it's a benefit to them or they're not performing as they should be with regards to being highly capable. Also, students who may leave our school district and go into another school district, they would go with them with that identifier as a highly capable student. There is an understanding that when they do transfer school, they can be reassessed to be determined if they are highly capable still. But if they're in our system, they stay within our system until they are removed by a parent.
We have, this is probably an issue, but an explanation for the lower number of seniors, because there, for sure that number was higher as kids were younger. This particular person is below for kids that were in the high
Yeah.
school program. And it's quite a bit different than what the other grades are showing.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, but I can definitely take that question back and have Alicia respond to that. She would probably able to go, right, yep, I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had a quick question. First of all, I'm really in favor of the universal screening. I think that does take some of the teachers picking their favorite kids out for it. And I think that's a great addition or development for highly capable. What's the technique of screening? How are they screened?
They go through some type of a pseudo assessment. It's not a long assessment, but it does identify where those students have strengths and weaknesses or are considered to be at the level of highly capable.
It's separate from, say, a state test or
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely different than that. Correct. Lauren, I see you down there getting ready to ask a question.
So I was wondering if there was a general definition to the term highly capable and if it was universal through all districts that participate.
Good question. There is, the highly capable program in our state is supported by state law, which it means that all public schools in our state are required to have some type of a highly capable program. There's also funding for school districts to implement highly capable programs for their students. The general understanding is the most students who are the most highly capable. So we have students that are really hard workers, okay, very persistent, take their studies very seriously, and the result is them being those having very good grades or marks and very good accomplishments. Just by doing that does not mean that you're deemed to be highly capable. Highly capable students would be students who have been determined to have above the normal maybe intellect or abilities in certain type of subject matter. A student can be highly capable in multiple different content areas or within the arts as well. You could be highly capable deemed in there. So it's really hard to have one true definition because every student who is in highly capable is already what is considered to be above the regular highly achieving students. They are above that. And it could be different for every one of those students of what area they may be considered to be highly capable in. A student that may be highly capable in maybe math and science, maybe not highly capable or high achieving in, say, English language arts, or a student with highly capable abilities in the fine arts or arts in general may not be highly capable in either of those two content academic areas. All right. But I can definitely share with you some more information if this is of interest to you about not only our highly capable program here within our schools, but also definitely what it looks like at the state level as well.
So for those that transfer beyond, like second and sixth grade, are they still eligible for recognition from teachers?
Yeah, so I think your question is that even though you may have not gone through the screener and have been identified, is there still ways that you can be recommended to go through the process of seeing if you are deemed to be highly capable? Is that a question? Yes. Yeah, anytime. Yep. There is windows, and I can share with you that information as well when the assessments are done, but you could recommend yourself. You could recommend another student that you know of. Parents can, community members can, and then most often it would be somebody that from the school that knows your capabilities would then make that recommendation. Good questions.
Okay, any other thoughts by anybody? And I know there's a grant component to this that we get every year by filling out the paperwork, and so there's some funding that goes behind the scenes to help us execute.
Yeah, and part of the compliance related is to do what we just have done, is to bring this before you for your approval and then have these discussions. And that must be, when we apply for the grant, we must identify when this came to the board as compliance, and then that allows us to step to the next approach, being able to get the apportionment with regards to that. Did I say that right, Chris?
We get about 117,000
Yeah.
a year, 115 to 117. I think this is getting 117. Not a lot of money.
But we know it benefits the 235 students or
Yeah.
so that.
Absolutely.
receive the highly capable. Good. All right. Thank you for that. Next is an annual report from our Director of School Safety and Transportation, Mr. Joe Coscarar. Joe, we're very happy to have you here. Welcome. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll defer first to our superintendent for the presentation that we did together to the community, couple weeks ago?
Yep. So we're gonna, like that presentation, Joe and I are gonna tag team on this, but I thought I'd take the leadership on this one so that Joe didn't have to talk for the next 20 minutes straight as he goes through safe routes to school as well as transportation. So if you were or have taken the time to take a look at this presentation, this is the board report version of that. Joe and I had great hopes of being able to provide a very significant amount of information to the community group in a very timely fashion. We didn't exactly hit both those marks. We hit the first one. There was a lot of information, but we definitely went over time, and we both admit it. But we have a shared passion and belief about the importance of school safety and security. And I think that helped us extend that with some of our experiences and stories and our passion for this. So with that being said, I'm going to take you through the board version. I do want to call that if you have an interest in the larger version, it is on our website. And I want to say that in the public meeting as well. It's on our website and it's under the Safe Schools tab. And so you parents or community members or students can go through there and see. Everything that we do is through the lens of the Viking Promise and the goal of the school district. The last part of our goal does say physically, emotionally and physically safe learning environments. And so that's what leads us to the importance of safety. The importance of school safety, we all know that if students are going to learn, they need to feel safe. It's essential for them. They are not going to be able to do as good of a job if they are worried about their safety, whether that be physical or emotional. That also goes for our employees as well. They have to feel like they are in a safe environment in order to give their best opportunities to students. Students who are not worried about their safety, feel more connected to their school and care more about their educational experience. These are all based on research and really speaking to students across our nation. This one, I'm not going to go through all of them, but this one really relies on the importance of social emotional learning as part of our overall curriculum. And the importance of that within students is that they begin to feel that they are physically and emotionally safe by some of the curriculum that we've adopted and implemented across our schools. A piece of data that we like to share. This is data that was taken from the 2021 Healthy Youth Survey. And the question basically was, I feel safe at school, yes or no? This is for grades 6 and 8 in that year. Our school district, for those students who participated in the survey, 86% of them replied yes. That is a great number. We all think of that as a very good number, but I'd like to turn that number over and make you think about the 14% of students who replied no. That's where the concern that I have is, and that's, I think Joe feels that way as well. In comparison to our school district, our region, our ESD region, which encompasses schools from Cle Elum to Bickleton, Goldendale, and everything in between there, 83% of those students surveyed replied, yes, I feel safe. Washington as a whole, 83%. Just a piece of data to get you. And again, in our business, we like to see high 80s numbers, just as students would in a percentage score. But for us, we look at it, the 80s is fine, but what about the other 14, or in case of our state or region, the other 17%? This presentation included really an overview of all the assets that we believe we have with regards to safety in our district. The first one here identifies the most important asset, which is the people involved. And leading the top of that are our students. They are the most important asset to making sure that our schools are safe and secure. They know more. There are more of them. They know more. They are involved in activities and situations that they can provide a lot of information to adults in order to make schools safe. The issues and the situations that we navigated our way through last year during the school year, I would say that I say that all three of those were able to come to us, and we were able to take action because it came directly from students. Students were the ones who reported things that were concerning to them. And they shared those with adults exactly the way that we had hoped that they were going to do. And we were able to get to the bottom of them and solve them and keep people safe. Another one, parents, guardians in our community, our school resource officer, and then obviously all the different people involved in safety in regards to the employees of the school district. Director of Safety, Joe. We have campus engagement staff, our counselors. We have a mental health professional now at the high school, and then our building and admin staff. Another part of our assets is our partners, and we're very lucky to live in a community where there are very strong partnerships. Our police department, our fire department, our city works, our city of Selah, our relationship with the county sheriff's department, because our city only encompasses a very small part of the entire geographical area of our district. Many of our families live within the county and not the city. Our educational service district was the first service district in our state to start a regional safety center. We are now a member of what we call the SOC, but it is an operation and coordination center that we rely on their support for safety audits, for safety training, and then for response when there is a need to as well. Our regional school districts, we are partners with all of them. We have this partnership that lets us know when things are going on in their school district that may have implications on our school district as well. Today there was, for incidents, today there was a potential threat of a shooting in Sunnyside. We got to know that information, that the allegation was all false. There was no shooting in Sunnyside, but that became information that was surely shared through the SOC. Eventually, Chris Whedon sent that out, but we were well aware of that from the communications going on amongst school districts. And then our state agency as well. And coming in early 24, we will have a statewide anonymous safety tip line for all involved.
And Kevin, if I may add, we just got information today that our partnership with the Yakima Sheriff's Office and Selah Police is coming to fruition with a program called Handle with Care. And we are going to be very excited to be able to provide information to our buildings when any of our students have experienced a traumatic event overnight. Maybe a visit by the fire department because of a house fire at 2 a.m. or things like that, that we can then share in the building with healthcare professionals, counselors, et cetera. So we just got that update today. Very exciting.
Yeah. So our other assets is a combination of a lot of things that I term to be systems in place. I'm not going to go through all those, but I will point that a couple things that we think are extremely important are obviously all the planning that goes into that, the prevention and intervention programs that we provide, the slogan of see something, say something, and how that's communicated, something that everybody can get behind. Our communication system of Parent Square has been invaluable. An application that we use called Stop It. We've also have an identification badges our students use. There's a new student pass system I know at the high school that's being implemented. We've used drug dogs, and we also have an application that we use called Gaggle that monitors our Chromebooks that we issue out to students to be able to see unsafe behavior or unsafe lookups that they may be looking for. And I think the latest one we just had, a student was looking up some things related to suicide. And so that triggered the Gaggle system. We then were made aware of it, and we're very quickly, within minutes, we're able to identify who that student was and be able to get services to that student to determine what exactly were they doing by looking up things about suicide. Our assets, we also have fantastic facilities, and we're very fortunate to have our facilities with regards to safety all located within one common area, one short amount of distance between them. It does present all kinds of other logistic things as well as traffic and those type of things. But from a safety perspective, it is nice to have those facilities all in the same location. They're all designed with safety in mind. They were built with safety in mind, like our newer facilities, or they have been retrofitted or modernized in order to make safety a priority. Our schools are based on the idea of internal movement. If you go to the high school, other than if students are going into the portable and back or outside for an outside class, the majority of movement within the school is inside the school. And we know that becomes problematic because the school wasn't built for 1,000 or 1,100 kids. It was built for 750 to 800. And so it's very, very congested and busy in there, but most of the movement is inside the school facility and not outside. We have door locking systems, fencing, alarm and monitoring system, and then we've implemented vaping sensors within the high school restroom facilities as well. Technology is also an asset. Our information database with all of our information with regards to our students and their families. We have significant Wi-Fi and infrastructural systems that are at the top of any that I've been familiar with. Huge capacity, visitor management systems, access control, emergency and panic systems, notification applications, and then, like I said, with Gaggle, our student device monitoring. We do monthly drills. I'm not going to go into this, but we have responsibility by state statute to do the drills. I know they become drills, and some of the students, I'm sure, have their own opinions of drills, but we have a responsibility to do all those and all the different types of them as well. In our district, we use the Core 4. It's how we respond to crises. And Joe, do you want to take these real quickly for our Core 4?
Sure, you bet. So as you can see up on the slide, we have evacuate, lockdown, secure and teach, and shelter in place. And along with evacuate, that covers earthquake drills, which we happen to be coming upon the month of October, where typically that's done. There's a national day specifically for that. We know not all buildings can accommodate that day and the exact time, but we do require them to conduct an evacuation drill with the earthquake. So the lockdown is response to threat of immediate harm. You can see the elements there in terms of the expectation that we're locking everything. We're keeping people out of sight, pulling blinds, etc. And instead of the old run, hide and fight, it's run, barricade and fight. And then we're monitoring communications internally. Second one, secure and teach. The threat of harm may be, a couple blocks away, half a mile. Of course, our schools are also close together. But secure and teach is a little lower level. We continue to teach. We continue to learn. We continue to work. If it's in this building, we still close and lock the classroom doors and pull the blinds and monitor communication. Shelter in place, we do have opportunity for possible chemical, biological, radioactive, natural event. I like to reference Mount St. Helens 1980, railroad tracks nearby where we could have, an ammonia spill, for instance, and Hanford not that far away. So luckily we have automatic shutoff systems for HVAC, and we do drill with duct tape and plastic sheeting for covering windows and doors. Finally, evacuation. Fire or other internal threat. And again, one of the things that we stressed at the safety meeting is that this isn't mine or my father's evacuation drill. You heard the alarm go off, you run out the door. We don't do that anymore. In this day and age, we want to make sure that we wait for the intercom or the email announcement. Hard to hear the intercom over the fire alarm sometimes, but we don't want to run out into more danger. We want to investigate, look into hallways, look out into the parking lots before we exit. If there is imminent and obvious danger with a fire, then what are the alternative routes? And practice those once a year, alternative rally points and alternative. We also just finished up emergency evacuation procedures with our buses on Tuesday. And we do that 3 times a year. And because we are a school district on a trimester system, none of them are verbal only. They are all verbal and physical. And so I have some great pictures that I'll be sharing of different levels, especially the cute little kindergartners hopping out of the bus and what great fun they had learning how to evacuate and learning if our bus drivers are disabled in a situation, how to set the parking brake, how to set it to park, where the fire extinguishers are, all of those different elements that are required by law.
These are also, I think we always like to tell you all the things that are going well. Okay, but we also like to share the other part of the reality. As you can see, we have a lot of assets, but even with all those assets, we still have safety related issues that we deal with all the time, and we will continue. Just because we added more security personnel or more campus engagements or a new app or vape sensors, that is not going to do everything. It's not just going to mysteriously stop and we can close the book on safety. It is all the time now. Every school day, it is all about safety, and that's the way we have to think. We know that is the reality of the world that we live in. It's unfortunate, but we cannot turn our head from what is going on across the nation. We also have a responsibility, and it's a challenge. We have to educate all students. We don't just get to pick the ones that may be safer than others. We educate them all, and we don't get to pick the behaviors that they exhibit and when they exhibit them, but we have to educate them all. And sometimes that does present challenges with regards to safety and security. The expectations of public schools are much different than probably when many of us went to school. And as one example is that, who would have ever thought that we would have mental health professionals in the inside of our school serving students? That has definitely changed things from the time that many of us went to school. Obviously, there has been in the last few years a significant change in how we treat others. The relationship piece, the ability, I think was mentioned of that you shared, is that people feel like they're not being treated right, and our students are part of that too. And so just over the last few years, we've seen a definite change on just the general treatment of how people interact and associate with others. We also know that our challenges with regards to safety is our students are in our schools for about 7 hours out of 24. And that means they're not in our schools for the remainder of that time. And many of those things that go on outside of that 7 hours come to school the very next day or have an impact on school the next day. We also know that our students, for the most part, are in school for 180 days. There's a lot of other days they're not in school. And during those times, there are a lot of things that happen that are returned to school and have a tremendous impact. Are also other challenges, good, bad, or indifferent. Social media presents us significant challenges in regards to what comes to school and some of the issues that we deal with regards to safety. Last year, social media played a part in 2 out of the 3 major incidents that we had, because the posting of information by students led to other students seeing it and then reporting it by good reason as well. So social media is a huge challenge for us. And then all those assets that you saw there, many of those are part of a commitment by the school district to provide funding for them, whether that's through the use of the approval of bond issues to build nice facilities and safe facilities, to the approval of the voters for our enrichment levies, because most of our funding with regards to safety does not come from the state or federal government. It is a local funded measure. And it is at times expensive, especially when you are employing people to take care of those responsibilities. So it is a huge challenge for us to consider how we are going to continue to add to our safety, because you can't just implement something and then take it away, especially if it's working. And we know that we have to continue to add and make things better, and that does become a somewhat of a barrier for us. Joe, anything else on that?
No, just that we're in continued research. Kevin and I are going to be talking soon about some webinars that I've sat in on. We've got community folks who are interested in taking a look at hardening, entryways, and that's something we talk about with the SOC all the time. There's some amazing new products out there. They're spendy, but certainly ones that we're taking a look at together.
So that is the condensed version, and now you probably get an understanding of what the big version was. So you take a look if you'd like to. Part of our work, Joe and I, really it happened because of a recommitment. We knew safety was going to be a big need, and then we experienced some things last year that really brought us together as that. Oh yeah, okay, we are in agreement that we really need to continue our work in regards to making sure our schools are safe. And then we had some incidents that had a tremendous impact on our community, and we all know that, and had some impact on our students for sure, but also had impacts on parents and our general community here in Selah. And one of those parents that has continued to work in partnership with the school district is Aubrey Holwagner. So Aubrey, I'm going to turn it over to you as part of our report, and I know you've addressed the board before, but this is again an opportunity for you to address the board again with the work that you continue to do.
Hello. Well, I guess I just want to start by saying I'm really honored to be a part of this movement with you and Kevin mainly, but this is a deep passion of mine, and a lot of the parents I know and talk to also feel that way. And it's going to take time to maybe make some changes, but as a result of the meeting that we had a couple weeks ago, even with the small turnout we had really good feedback, and I got a bunch of names and numbers and emails and people that want to join the force of how can we create more security in the schools, what can we implement, what can we start with? And so I've been in contact with this group, and then I guess I don't know exactly what to do next. I need a little direction, some teamwork maybe, but I think the group is billowing with ideas and very rambunctious about what we could do. And so I'm not sure how to funnel the ideas into, do we take one at a time? Do we, so I need a little direction, but I think there's reason to be excited that there's some people that could back this up, and hopefully we can get something going here. Really proud of Selah. All of the items that Kevin went through for what we're already doing is so impressive. I mean, it really, I think it speaks volumes for our leadership and our action. We're talking about leading with action, and I think we're really doing the stuff already. But I know and you guys know already that with the national threat to our security, we have to keep evolving the level of security we have. So I'm just proud to be on this movement, and I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to say right now.
Can I ask a quick question,
Yes,
Aubrey?
please.
I'm thinking especially of Angie and Garrett, who are interested in helping the schools as well, but anybody else who might be listening or interested, how can they contact you to get involved in this sort of group that you're forming?
Well, my personal info, I guess, should I share that right now, or should I,
Is that where you would like people to contact you?
like, by email or
Whatever
phone?
your preferred
Or
method.
should they contact maybe the district who could put them in touch with you?
Okay, that sounds perfect. Yeah.
We are blessed in a district to have somebody like Aubrey who has stepped up, saw something that needed some attention, came to you, spoke what she was feeling. So many times that's where a lot of it ends. But that was what, Aubrey, last May? Then we started our work together and took it all the way through the summer and the beginning of the school year this year. And I have a feeling that Aubrey's going to stay right with it and continue for this year and probably many years to come as well. So.
One of the things I heard you say is that you're looking for direction. So maybe that would be a cue for, you and Joe to, put together a little meeting and just discuss what's in scope here. What should we be trying to accomplish? And, what are you hearing from parents? What would you, as sort of the movement leader, like to see? What's your vision and what's within the parameters and realistic scope of the district? And, maybe there's, not here by any means, but an off topic or another time that you guys can put that together so you kind of have a little charter.
Yeah.
What's your expectation?
Exactly what I was thinking as well, is that Aubrey and Joe and I are trying to find a time for us to get together to figure out when we get the group together, what we're going to try to accomplish. And that what rolls around in my head is something similar maybe to what we're doing with the long range facility committee, is allow people to brainstorm, think of what could happen, and then try to filter that down to what can happen over a certain amount of time. What is the necessity right now, and what can we do right now, and then what can we do next year or the year after or 6 months or whatever. It's exciting to hear that more people have joined your interest and are helping to do the work.
Aubrey,
I'm also going.
go ahead. I was just gonna thank Aubrey for being a champion for this. And also, not if, but when we get down to brass tacks and start figuring out ways to improve our safety, obviously this isn't an isolated environment for us. This is like you said, a national issue. Are there funding sources available? Are there grants that we could be working on, looking into, as our overall budget tightens and costs for making school happen continue to increase? Are there funding sources for us to make these spendy improvements that Joe spoke of?
Joe, do you want to talk about our relationship with our grant writer and where we've kind of tasked her to do?
Yeah, so we do have a grant writer in the district, and we began the conversation with her last spring about getting ready for the next process of grant writing. and shooting for October for those serious conversations to start taking place. Obviously, we're just a few days away from that. We also had at the meeting, at least one, person there who has some experience in grant writing and a lot of experience as well in safety and facilities around the world. So we've got some folks who are willing and ready, and we know some of the funding sources that are out there. We've had a Department of Justice grant that we've been utilizing for threat assessment training for these past 4 years. And so we're going to be looking toward that funding source again, as well as others nationally and at a state level to be able to hope that we can bring some of these ideas to life here in the Selah School District.
Aubrey and the rest of the board, I'm hoping as part of this, we'll try and recruit some students to be representative of student voice. They're definitely affected by it, obviously. And before we turn to the transportation thing, I'm wondering if our student representatives have any questions or thoughts about student safety at the high school or other schools.
I'm just curious if there's any safety protocols related to sports functions or school dances or any type of gathering that doesn't occur during the school day.
Great question. What immediately comes to mind are the protocols. Just been communicating quite a bit the past few weeks with Heidi Diner, who is our PR specialist in the district, along with Courtney Peart up at the high school, just in terms of things like lightning protocols, what we do when thunder and lightning are a part of our practices, heat index. Smoke obviously has unfortunately been a big part of our lives for the past 5-6 years. So some of those types of things. We do really rely on our athletic directors who put on those events to be event planners, but also to have protocols in place. That includes game management folks, that they would be a part of the process, including the announcers at the games, whether it's something as simple as the lights going out versus a student being injured on the field, or something larger. There's work to be done there for sure. It's a great question, though.
That's a big open environment, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Soccer. Yeah. Yeah. We do have security at those games and administrators as well.
So just to kind of support the question, you talked about drills earlier. Is that part of the drill regimen then to simulate some sort of a emergency safety measure at a football game or, at a student assembly of some kind? Is that part of our routine where we practice that?
It is something that we plan with the SOC, and we are in the planning stages, the initial planning stages this year. With the SOC, again, we have at least one interested parent that was a part of the gathering, who has participated and planned some of those, again, at military bases and other places around the world. But that's one that we put off because of the pandemic. And so this year it's ripe for a spring, either tabletop exercise or something even bigger to plan. And sometimes it can be around a sporting event. Sometimes it can just be around a school day event, or just a greater community event. The goal, of course, in all of that is to make sure that we prepare, but we don't scare students, and we don't scare staff, we don't scare parents. We've all heard examples of that. And whether it's school entities or other entities doing it wrong, hey, let's bring in commandos and not tell anyone. We'll never do it that way.
Addie, do you have any questions or additions?
You referenced earlier, the safety community collaboration. There's a lot in that larger PowerPoint, and you went overtime. But as I thought about it, and Dan and I were there, and while there was a lot of content, and Aubrey, you referenced it earlier, to see everything that the district has committed to and has put in place all in one presentation and a condensed, summarized version of it, the accumulative look at everything that we're already doing was really impressive. And it made me proud to know that while, you know, people don't know what is really in place. And so that did a nice job of making sure that we all could see what is already in place. And so I think the takeaway before was, shoot, look at all this that we have in place, but nobody knows. And so I know that I'm hoping that that's part of the, you know, part of the movement is education to our community. And that's really key because you could have the best program ever in place, but if nobody knows about it, it's really not doing what it could. And so I think we've got some great stuff in place, and with Joe's leadership and everybody on his team and the district in general. But we need to get that word out so that people have more confidence and more comfort about the commitment that the district makes to the safety overall, and to see what is in place now so that we can I think you have to establish that baseline. We need to know what's in place now before we can really start to see, okay, what can we make better? That makes sense. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you. Thank you for your commitment. As you can. Yeah, there you go. Oh, shoot. So do we have a second half to the,
All right. So again, I want to say congratulations to our student reps, having been a high school teacher, activity director, athletic director, and principal for 31 years. Some of the most rewarding times for me was as the activity director, leadership teacher, and having student involvement, student voice, and the energy that it brought to my life and to our school was fantastic. So thank you for being here, and congratulations to you. What I've been tasked with today is a transportation presentation, but we're gonna really zero in on what's known as safe walk routes. And really it's safe walk routes. It's also transportation busing and how that's impacted by it. So we spent all of last year in a task force as required to do every couple of years, and hadn't been done for a while. Pandemic again involved with that, but you'll see there some of the folks that were involved from our school district. We tried to have representatives from every school. You'll note at the bottom, Natalie Keller was involved, so we had student voice. She even wrote an article in the Yakima Herald from her time spent with us. You also see that we had buy-in and involvement with the city of Selah. I can't say enough about Rocky Wallace and city of Selah Public Works and the communication and relationship that we've built with them, as well as this city of Selah Police and Nick Singletary, our SRO in the district. And pretty exciting, our consultant, Ryan Hahn, who was heavily involved with this and with the work, had never really seen WASDOT involved with the school district as much as we got. And so we're excited to have WASDOT represented as well during some of those meetings. Our charter was to have staff, students, and parents to recommend to the superintendent and to the board safe walking and biking plans, identify and prioritize safety improvements to be shared with the city and county and state, safe routes to schools master plan, to create on-site pedestrian and traffic safety plans in coordination with site administrators and the safety committee, make improvements in site, bus, parent pickup, and drop-off zones, and to present to stakeholder groups, district staff, and the board of directors as needed. We were guided by RCW 28A 160, 150 through 190 that talks about what eligible students are for transportation and transportation services for students living within the walk area that maybe there's some hazards there. So I won't read that in great detail because we want to get out of here before 10 o'clock and I am a talker. But it continues to say that walk area means the area around a school with an adequate roadway configuration to provide students access to school with a walking distance of less than 1 mile. It must be measured along the shortest roadway or maintained public walkway. It's underlined because that is new language. And what we've been using for years is a radius. And as the crow flies. So one of the things you may know is that our students are not crows. Okay, and there are roads that don't exist where they live within that 1 mile zone, but walking is 1.5 miles. It just doesn't work. And along that 1.5 miles are no sidewalks and speed limits of 45, 35, and people who post-COVID are going a little faster seemingly. So that was part of our task, was to identify some of those places and to change our definition. Our current Selah School District Policy 6600 talks about the 1 mile radius. We want to change that to the 1 mile walk zone. A lot of us use Google Maps. I use them all the time, every day. And so when a parent calls and says, hey, I want to see if my kid qualifies for the bus, I'm going to take a look at the walk route, not as the program. And so from that work, you'll see some really old maps here in a moment. So these maps were created in October of 2009, I believe. And so John Campbell, misspelled there back in the day, that was their radius. Okay. And so some of the kids who are within that radius would have to walk more than 1 mile because the radius didn't encompass the fact that maybe they had to cut over to Crusher Canyon just to get where they needed to go to SIS. Okay, that's the old maps, and you see the symbols that go into those maps. You'll also see, and I'm not going to go into detail, we took surveys of how students got to and from their schools as part of this task force. And that was interesting. We did one on the coldest week of the year. Same week we had an incident at the high school with the wind chill of 2 degrees or less, was the week that we did this survey. So you can imagine how many people did not walk or bike or anything like that to school. These are the spring results that you'll have a chance to take a look at and ponder. So this is the JCP proposed safe walk route map, and you can tell it is no longer a radius. It is a walk zone. And if you look carefully, maybe you'll see a fish or, some other design in there. But what's most important is, where are the areas where students can safely cross? There's a legend there for crosswalks. Entry points into school, and that's the main doors. Adult crossing guards, where those exist. Railroad crossings, because some live within 1 mile, but there's a railroad to cross, and that's not safe, especially if you're 4 or 5 years old, but really for any age. And what our actual proposed walk routes are, because there's a lot of back roads you could take. For instance, to get to SIS. We'll talk about that when we get to their slides, but they aren't recommended because there aren't sidewalks. And that's already come up this fall in some conversations. So you'll be able to read about some changes in bus service for JCP, some additional services for certain neighborhoods. You'll see that on all of these, and the possibility of additional students and minimal impact to existing routes, but still the opportunity to bus more students. For SIS, again, the old map, and notice, if you will, kind of the right middle. Back in the day when it was Selah Junior High School. Some people haven't let go of that, right? It's still junior high instead of middle school, but this was created when it was still the junior high school. And again, you've got the radius there rather than the walk zone. We have current exceptions in each area. For instance, if you live at 2261 Pleasant Hill Road, as the crow flies, you're within 1 mile, but you are 1.3 miles away by roadways. And no, exactly. And so with pretty much all of Pleasant Hill is an exception. There are no sidewalks, and the speed limit might be 35 in places, but people aren't doing 35. So we have exceptions. Rushmore is because of the railroad track. So, and again, you'll be able to kind of look at our survey of the kids and how they got to school. We did that over the course of a week, so it was a 3-day survey. And then you see the new SIS proposed, and oh, by the way, there's Pleasant Hill protruding out on the left side. So that's the proposed walk route that has changed from 2009. And for SIS, potential of additional riders along North First Street and south of RLK, beginning at Park South to Valley View. For RLK ELC, one of the things that you may know is that it didn't exist back in 2009, and instead it was Robert Lintz Elementary School. And so this is the 1 mile radius for Robert Lintz Elementary School. Again, how did our kindergartners and preschoolers get here in the spring? And then here is the proposed map. Looks pretty similar to another one you've already seen. But that's the RLK ELC one. And again, your crosswalks, your entry points to school, your adult crossing guards, etc. Additional services on Goodlander, Palmer Drive, West Orchard, Cedar, West Natchez, West First, and Heritage Village. We also did a parent community survey. It was open for 2 weeks in May and June. We got 23 respondents. Each building was represented. Some families with kids in multiple buildings. You're able to, in this presentation, access that. If you have any issues with accessing that, let me know. I'll be glad to provide you with some of the results of that and some of the comments. But basically, here were some of the themes. Parents indicated unsafe conditions, either social or geographic. Social being things like people driving at high speeds, Fremont not going 20 or 25, using the two-way left turn lane as a lane of travel. And they felt like they were slowed down, etc. Parents suggesting a greater police and crossing guard presence might help them feel safer to send their kids walking to school on foot. The timing of flashing lights and adult cross guards, one of the things we discovered in the process is that some of our crossing beacons and our school beacons are controlled by WSDOT and we're very old technology, and they're in the process of replacing that. Same with our traffic signals going through town. They have been working on those as well and updating the technology for those. The condition and location of some of our sidewalks. And that you might have a sidewalk, you know, if you look at Fremont, there's sidewalks almost all the way up and down, but if you're on the north side and you have to cross spires, there's some gaps there. And so definite concerns for sending your kids that direction and understandable. So some of our recommendations are the pedestrian hybrid beacon or Hawk X-Walk signals. You've seen them before with the single eye at the top that's red, and then the dual reds that flash with a sign that says that you're able to proceed if no one's in the crosswalk. We think of places like the crossing over by the middle school, where it's a game of chance, unfortunately, because a lot of drivers don't stop. But looking at some of those crossing flags, possibly at that Hillview and North First crossing. Traffic signal at Goodlander and Lancaster that will be going in next summer. That work has been done this year, and for a traffic signal geek like me, I'm pretty excited about that and was excited to be a part of the process. I know it's a weird thing, but it's me. Sidewalks on South 3rd Street, South Valley View to Southern were completed this winter. So again, kudos to Rocky Wallace and his team. Pedestrian access from the new housing above RLK, the Canyon Cliffs, to Natchez for walkers, and sidewalk improvements on West Natchez and South 10th. If we ask those kids that live in that complex to walk, we need to take a look at sidewalks on Natchez, sidewalks on 8th or 10th, and 10th is what we've talked about with Rocky Wallace. He's been working on grants. First one was rejected because of a lack of enough points, but we'll continue to work with him for sidewalks on East Home, in between Weenass and First, as well as East Bartlett. And then additional work with WSDOT for pedestrian safety along North Weenass, and Selah School District restricting access. Right now, there are open pathways to the back of the middle school by way of the softball, baseball, soccer. And so maybe, you know, gating those and putting locks on them to restrict that access. Our next steps are to approve the new Safe Walk route maps as a board, to decide on the board policy 6600 language and changing it from the radius to the walk zone mile. Discussing with Selah Police and the City of Selah Public Works on how to provide resources and education to our community for safe driving and walking in school zones and on Selah roadways. been using Parent Square quite a bit for some of that messaging this year. And then to film our safe walk routes and to make those links available on the map and other things. Questions?
A lot of information, a lot of hard work, a lot of people involved, man alive. So we have all these recommended routes now, and so how is this communicated to parents, students? So that they know that this, hey, the work's been done, and then here's these recommended routes.
So again, we're gonna film those. We have our driver trainer who will film those so that we will actually film ourselves walking those routes and film ourselves walking the ones that are, maybe more accessible. For instance, there's some back roads to Selah Intermediate that were not recommended because of lack of sidewalks, because of increased traffic and student drop off and cars coming in and out. So we will get that out to the community via Parent Square, via our website, through Heidi Diner, putting out publications and making that available to the public as soon as possible.
And just to confirm, the scope of this are those routes that are all within the 1 mile radius of our schools.
Outside of the 1 mile radius are the bus routes, so the walk zones are within the 1 mile walk area versus the radius that it has been.
So, and we approved policy 6600 tonight as a part of our second reading.
Yes, so you'll get to
So-
compare and contrast.
So that language, though, that you referred to from radius to walk zones, forgive me, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly.
Yes, there's additional updates to that policy. Actually, that may not have been in the policy for you tonight. Joe has made several edits to the policy, and we'll be bringing it down.
Some of the language in 6600 is a bit archaic, to say the least.
So, I mean, if we'd have known that back then, we might have tabled that one.
Yeah, we didn't, I missed.
No, that's okay. Okay, so when we see it again, we're gonna go, wait a minute, we just did this one.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Joe, is the idea of restricting gate access to the Selah Middle School campus so that they're not crossing Weenus to get to the school?
That's part of it, but it's also the bigger picture of school safety and security.
Will they then go all the way down to the gas station and crop?
Goodlander, yeah, so Goodlander or, if you take a look at where are the traffic lights and the crosswalk.
Fremont, I guess, would be the next one after that.
Yeah, basically you're looking at Fremont, yeah.
And then, when you say crossing flags for, I mean, the Hillview and First is the one that I guess I have the most experience with and the one that jumps out at me, like you were saying, it's very dangerous.
Yes.
Crossing flags would be the thing that would be in a bucket on one side and a bucket on the other side.
Correct.
That would be a possible cheap alternative to
It would be. We have
hiring
had,
staff or putting in infrastructure.
yeah, we've had parents who have sent their kids with flags and they've waved them and people have still, and when you have a 2-lane road each direction, multiple lane road like that, one car may stop in one lane and other people are oblivious, so I know it's much more expensive. We've even started, and it's just a very initial discussion about the possibility of a roundabout there.
And what about the possibility of having, like I know at the elementary school and at Lentz, they have and I think at SIS, they have some people doing crosswalk duty. Is that possible at the middle school or do we not have enough staff to do that?
Great question. So the safe walk routes really addresses pre-K through grade 5. It does not address secondary in terms of funding. So what we're looking at, again, is to work with the city, to look at grants and to see what we can do with the state in terms of the bigger picture of city, state of Washington, WSDOT, and the school district working together in order to provide a safer environment at that particular intersection. And of course, to help deal with some of the Warnex flow issues.
In and out of there. And so at the SIS or at Lentz or at or John Campbell, those people that are doing crosswalk duty, that's being paid for by some source, not levy money, or that's a grant that we receive.
I'll let Chris answer that.
The current people doing crosswalk duty, that's being paid for
levy and basically.
Okay, and there isn't enough to do that at the middle school, I guess, is my question, to have somebody be that.
They would
person.
have to dedicate some of their staffing to do that if it's necessary, if that's something I can follow up with them.
Yeah, I talked to Mark about that last year, and he's interested in it, but budget is an issue. Finding somebody that wants to stand out there when it's 10 degrees is an issue, I'm sure. I'm just curious about, could we staff that in the morning and in the afternoon?
It does require to dedicate staffing.
Right. Okay, thank you. I just want to ask Lauren if there's anything you want to add. How do you get to school, Lauren?
I drive my car to school. I'm fortunate enough to have that opportunity. I do have a couple questions though. So people that are within the 1 mile walking distance, are they eligible for bus too or no?
They are not. Good question.
Okay, so is there any, I don't know if this is even an option, but if say a high school student wanted to volunteer and help assist kids crossing the street, or would that be an opportunity they would be able to have, or since they're not technically adults yet, is that not?
I would need to look into the liability there, and I even am a little fearful of putting an adult on that crossing at the middle school. Because again, I've seen the inattention. I'm really happy to see the amount of police presence that we've had and the number of people who've been pulled over and warned or even ticketed. But I've also seen enough near misses of one lane stopping and the other not, and putting humans out there, adult or otherwise, that would be a grave concern. But certainly something we can look at. We have obviously utilized high school kids and are using them for our Pride Patrol on our buses.
Yeah.
You'd almost need 2 people out on the
Minimum,
side.
minimum.
And then we have gone away from when we were in school, there were crossing guards that were little kids, right?
Right.
But that's,
Patrol boy. We were
Yes, and-
patrol boys.
there's some real safety issues with that, I'm sure now. Yeah.
Good. Did you have another question?
I did. You were talking about the Selah PD, and I was wondering if there's any connections that we have to them as to when they decide to. Because some days they're by the high school and there's like 3 or 4 of them, and then some days there's none. So is there any way we can prioritize that they're in a certain area of concern each morning, or if they like switch depending on?
Yeah, it really depends on the day and what's going on in the community. So you've seen a strong presence on some days, and other days maybe no presence. And so, you know, they have made it a priority. You can see that, especially on days, certain days where you might see the flashing lights quite often. We've worked with, like I said, the chief as well as our SRO. They have been a part of this process and part of other safety processes with us. So one of the things that came up in the parent survey was, hey, the school district should work with the police department, maybe with Public Works. And I want to let the public know who might be watching this as well as the board. One of the aspects of this job that has been really rewarding for me has been to see those connections and to make those connections myself in my dual roles of director, and to enhance some of them that already existed with our schools.
Question before too. Can we just have somebody there every day? Well, they've got other stuff that they're looking at.
Yeah, and it does take resources, right? It takes staffing and money and training. I was told, you know, I asked the city, can I get a flag and just go out there and stop traffic on Goodlander to get the buses out? And the answer was no. Can't just do that. So there are regulations. So it's a great question.
Yeah, thank you for those questions. Student voice and in action right here in our first meeting. That's awesome. Yeah. And Joe, thank you for the walkthrough of all the work that's been done. I think that's valuable work, and appreciate your laser focus on the safety in our district.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. That brings us to, student board representative reports. If, oh, is there one? Thank you. I missed it. Wanted to get going. Huh? Yeah?
Yes, so.
Need approval for that one.
Yes, so we are recommending,
No. Well, how was your day today, Sarah? Yeah, okay. All right, moving on.
okay,
Back to the meeting.
so with that, we are recommending resolution number 23-22 to accept the final commissioning report for our John Campbell Primary Campus. This is driven by WAC 392, 344, 160. So included on board docs this evening is the resolution that you can see, and then also the actual final commissioning report. So this is around the commissioning. They look at HVAC, including integration with fire alarm, domestic hot water generation, pumping and mixing, lighting control, emergency power, energy metering, and irrigation. So they're testing those to make sure that they're operational, or they're operating in accordance with owner's manual and expectations. So the conclusion here is that, and it was Keith Lee Barber Associates is who did the commissioning for us, and they actually were, I think they also did the commissioning for our other projects as well. There must be not too many.
So this is really an extension of last month's, completion resolution.
Yes, correct.
So this is sort of a final.
Yeah.
Final.
And this could have come before final approval, but it wasn't done. We just got it.
Yep, yep.
So.
Well, the commissioning report itself is quite lengthy,
Mm-hmm.
although I did find it somewhat interesting and parts of it I did read. So they're very thorough, very thorough. All right, so we have a resolution on the agenda that needs, acceptance, 2023-22. So this would be an opportunity to make a motion. Well, I also move that we adopt resolution 2023-22, acceptance of the building commissioning report for John Campbell Primary. Any other questions from anybody? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor, indicate with an eye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, there we go. And then now, may I move on to, I really was interested in having, we're trying to get to Lauren now. It's an opportunity, if you would choose to address the board and have, give us a little student board representative report.
Well, it's week 5. And everything seems to be going pretty good. I haven't really noticed. I've been trying to think about my research thing that I've been doing around school, and I'm really interested to see what's going on in the other schools.
You certainly have time to be thinking about it.
And Lauren, I know that at some point you're going to be involved, I think, with the Thor's Council as a kind of a way to bring some of the board information back to the high school. I would encourage you to maybe ask if somebody wanted to be involved in helping figure out safety issues at the high school or in the school district. That might be a good place to recruit people to join in.
Excellent. And it's Spirit Week. Next week? All right. What is the parade route? You know? To the high school. Oh, what a fun event. Well, we'll all be looking for the blue and gold and whatever all the other, I see the banners and I don't know what each day is, but I know each day has a different theme and that's always fun and we should.
Can't even get my own student
Lauren, thank you so much and thanks for coming tonight and great input. Okay. Next up then is our Associate Superintendent for District Operations, Ms. Scott. Oh,
Okay, I don't have much on my report this evening. I just wanted to give you the enrollment update first and foremost, so you can see our opening enrollment came in at 3655, which is 8 FTE over projection. We kind of like to be a little higher than that. We like to be over projection by 40 or 50 to start the year because we normally see a slight decline over the course of the year. But you can see in the report that we're pretty much right on target with our Lentz campus with Kinder. And John Campbell is under projection by 15. And the intermediate schools over by 16, middle schools over by 33, and the high school's under by 22. We like to see the high school come out higher than they're coming out this year. The good news, one of the pieces of good news here is our enrollment continues to recover. I mean, we're fully recovered from COVID. We're actually 19 FTE over what our June count was in just earlier this year in June, before the last month of the 22-23 school year. So we're happy about that. So that's a good thing. And we're hoping to continue to see an incline in our enrollment. So wanted to give you that piece of information. And just the only other thing I wanted to mention is to let you know that our cabinet has been working, or we've been working on a draft budget analysis and budget reduction tool. So we've put together evaluation criteria and really trying to hone in, okay, how does positions or funding sources, how does it drill down to students? What kind of benefit do the students get out of each of the areas that we're looking at? We plan to look at every position in the district along with including department staff as well as staff in the buildings, the district office, and across the board. So we'll be engaging in that work beginning as soon as later in October. So we are meeting as a cabinet next week. We'll go through the draft template, the criteria. It's pretty elaborate. I plan to come back to the board and share our tool that we're utilizing to analyze different components of the budget at the October business meeting. I'll bring it back at that meeting. But just wanted to let you know that work has begun. We've had a lot of conversations about this and we know it's a big task. We're gonna timeline everything out and make sure that we have good coverage by the time budget season really gets into gear where we need to have our staffing numbers nailed down.
Probably comes way faster than you're ready for.
Yes, it does. That's all I had tonight.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to our superintendent report then.
News. So Lauren took some of my exciting news to share with you. But first of all, and most important, Lauren, welcome. We're happy that you are here. I think you've heard that repeatedly today. And Addie, although she had to leave for practice, we are excited to have not only the two of you, but all 4 student reps as well. We are 5 weeks into the school year, and I am still saying it is a very positive start. Okay. And the reason I say that is that the routines have been established. There is regular teaching and learning going on in classrooms throughout the day. And we're involved in regular student activities. And I think those are all things we had all hoped for. And I can assure you we are back to normal. Some good, some not so good, some challenging, some wonderful celebrations as well. But we are back in regular. October is coming very quickly, and it is one of the busiest months for our school district. And it does start off, as Lauren said, with Spirit Week next week and homecoming and all the things that go along with that week. You have a study session on the 12th, and that will be something new for us, is the idea of having a student panel come and speak to us about their experiences as high school students, and a number of questions that I thank you for getting to me, and then I've forwarded those on to Hunter and Colton to be able to make that hopefully a benefit to you. We have no school on the 13th. That is the day after that. That's a Friday. That is a teacher professional learning or professional development day. All of our certificated staff will be going through a Cecil based training. The 18th is a community collaboration. That will be college and the high school as a topic of that. Before you know it, the 23rd through the 27th is fall parent teacher conferences. And so those will be half days other than that Wednesday. And then the 24th, during that week, we'll have our second meeting of the facilities committee. October is, as Joe mentioned already, Safe Schools month, and there is an actual week for safe schools. And so we'll be doing a lot of work to promote that out. It's also Disabilities History Month, so we celebrate a lot of the students that we have that have disabilities. And then for many of you might already know this, but it is Principals Month as well. And so we celebrate the work of our principals and assistant principals in the building. And with that, that is my report.
5 weeks in and October's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, sir. Next up is board communications, opportunity for any board member to share their thoughts with us tonight. So open the floor. Not required.
I'll just say a couple of quick things. One of the, what I noticed tonight was a thread that I just wanted to kind of tie things together, whether it was the report on safety work or safe walks to school, the new security position at Selah Middle School that hopefully we're going to fill, the parent communication tonight from Angie and Garrett Kincaid, along with Ms. Holwegner, who was here. And I want to add to it the conference that we approved teachers to attend for equity work. I think there's in practicing anti-racist techniques and learning about the way racism affects school districts and systems, I think there's safety in that as well. That's an issue that I think makes students feel welcome, makes them feel like they can be themselves, and when they feel that way, I think the whole school district is a safer and better place. So I'm really glad we approved that funding. That's it.
Thank you, Dan. I'll just piggyback on what Dan's saying. As I was listening to the discussion and presentation on safety, it's such a big topic. And while, I think most of us, our brains and our minds turn towards, the safety, the physical safety of our students. I just want to remind people that there's a whole bunch of other safety areas here that the school district and the community of Selah are, and families in this community of Selah should, and I know would be aware of, safety on mental health, safety from fire, safety on the ball field or on the court, safety, emotional safety. There's cyber scams. There's social media safety. There's safety outside of our school day. And so there's this term safety is huge. And, while we think about it as our physical safety, I think there's more to it than that, and not to minimize the physical part of it, but to recognize that, there's a bigger picture when we talk about safety. And it's our obligation as a district to ensure the safety in some of these other categories, which I know we work hard at. But I just don't want to take our eye off of some of these other safety categories. To know that we're providing and doing all that we can to provide some of the other safety measures in these other areas is an important thing in my opinion. Okay. With that, no executive session is needed, as far as I understand, and that would be the end of our meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your input and good conversations, and we are now adjourned at 6:30. 6:30.